Hello again and welcome to The Luxury of Choice, a B2B sales and technical podcast brought to you by the training team of George James Limited. My name is Steve Vaughan. I'm a senior trainer at George James, as well as the host and producer of this podcast. This is another of our mid-month interview shows where I talk to a subject matter expert on a topic that we think you, the listener, will find of interest and value. Today, my guest is Manel Berga. Manel is responsible for lead generation and lead management in human health biosolutions for Novo Nordisk, with a particular interest in social selling. Manel, hi, how are you?
Hello, Steve. I'm so happy to be here. I'm a big fan of this podcast since its beginning, so thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's really kind, thank you. We're delighted to have you here. And I think you know my colleague Pascal, of course, from a previous generation. So what we normally do with the guest interview really is just get the person obviously say a little bit about themselves first to start with. So the audience knows a little bit about yourself before we then go into talk a little bit about your area of interest and expertise, really. So could you just give the listener just a bit of a background as to yourself, what it is you do, and a bit of your career, if you could, and that would just help us get into the conversation.
Absolutely. So most of my experience in the last 15 years has been in sales operations and sales management in several companies in human health, biotech, and medical devices.
Okay.
You could say that in the is sales an art or a science question, I clearly walked towards the science part of it. So to let the artists do their thing.
Okay. And the organisation you work for now, it's a new organisation, I think you said, yeah? It's a merger of two companies, yeah?
Absolutely. We are in the midst and very excited about this big merger, especially in Danish terms, but of course in any term. And among other things, my team owns much of the lead gen and lead management efforts in the human health biosolutions, as you said, part of the big company. And the program I'm going to talk to you about is something we developed as a lead generation effort. So I hope it's of interest.
I'm sure it will be. So let's get right into that, really. So there's never enough sales leads for salespeople. It's a constant theme whenever I talk to salespeople, whenever I work with salespeople. Leads and good leads and qualified leads and all those important things, really. But what does that mean for you in your business and your responsibility in your role, Manel? How does that work for yourself?
Which is social selling, right? What is social selling? It's generating business opportunities through social media, in this case, LinkedIn and only LinkedIn. We are in a B2B complex sale. If one thing I discovered in B2B is that it tends to be very quickly P2P, person to person. So we developed this social selling methodology. You can as well use it for job seeking, or you can as well use it for promoting your content. So it's really something that improves and increases your network in LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Because I think most people went onto LinkedIn originally, let's be honest, because they were looking for a job. I know I did all those years ago. And we wrote our profiles around job seekers rather than like our customers. So you said something really important there, which I really agree with, but let's just talk about that a bit more. LinkedIn is a B2B networking, but it's a person-to-person, connection, isn't it? The relationships are person-to-person. Is that something you agree with? Yeah? Absolutely.
B2B is really a P2P. That's how we consider it.
Yeah, because people buy from people, not companies. Yeah.
Exactly.
So if I'm a salesperson listening to this podcast and thinking, well, I need to do more on LinkedIn, I've only ever put my job CV and things up there in the past, what are the first things I need to think about in terms of getting my LinkedIn activities and profile sorted? Where do I start, really?
Look, I'll tell you how we did it, and then I hope the experience. So we started by knowing very clearly what we didn't want to do. Right. So what we wanted to do, we discovered along the way, but we had very clear that we didn't want to be a spammer. These kind of messages that I'm afraid you receive, and most of our listeners receive, of people we don't know coming out from nowhere. We will comment abundantly on these messages later on. I believe the successful spammer is a little bit like a mythological creature. We all heard about somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that met one once, but frankly, I have never seen that work. And I cannot conceive that this is working in a B2B complex sale environment.
No, absolutely. So avoiding spamming, and I know LinkedIn certainly has a, in view of organizations that are heavily spam organizations. So no spamming. What else do I need to think about?
So in line with the no spamming, it's like a little bit, don't be fooled by the numbers game. I mean, is your market really so transactional so that you can email to so many people? Are your potential customers so unlimited or so many? I mean, some people will remember you as the one that sent them that message that you didn't want to receive or you didn't ask. And above all, how do you expect to build a long-lasting business relationship that you can defend with, let's say, imagine it worked, that's not the kind of customer that you might want. Somebody that just replies and I'm going to go with you. So we started thinking in what not to do, and we my word disappeared. Quite instantly came up, that's it, with the iron rule of social selling, which is consider doing things you would do in a flirting or dating context. And above all, avoid at all costs anything that you wouldn't do in a flirting, dating context. So that's a little bit the science of attractiveness. I'll give you some examples.
So, as if flirting or dating, you said, tell me more about that, because
absolutely
that might come as a bit of a surprise to some of the listeners on that.
Sure. So some things you do or you could do if you were to flirt, use sense of humor. That is indeed effective. Have a completely bespoke approach. Maybe the worst thing of these spamming messages is they look really so copy-pasted from person to person. And frankly, if in a flirting environment you say exactly the same line that can be applied to everybody, like, oh, you have beautiful eyes, frankly, it sounds cheap, demeaning, and completely disrespectful, doesn't it?
Inappropriate, really, yes, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Add some lightness to the conversation. We are in the era of emojis. I mean, there was a time, Steve, where emojis didn't exist. Do you remember that time? That was hard.
Me too, yeah.
And then some don'ts. Don't skip steps. I mean, if you're writing to me, tell me, how did you find me? Why did you write to me? It's still a social situation, and there are rules into social situations. So I strongly not recommend not doing name dropping. Usually spammers mention they work with this or with that company. These companies that they quote usually are so big compared to my own situation, right? So it just creates a barrier. Am I really interested in knowing who you're working with? Not really, right? And of course, don't lie. I've seen too many times people lying in order to achieve, both in a flirting context and as well in a B2B. Yeah. I'd like to believe some people do not even realize how off the messages they send are.
Do you have an example in mind? Or?
Absolutely. I mean, the archetypical example usually is like, hi, Manel, or hi, Steve. And by the way, they call that personalization, which is, and then they start saying, our company does this, does that, or I help companies doing this with that. I mean, if I translate that into, I'm talking to a lady. It's like if I would say, "Hi, Steve. I have 2 masters in business, and I speak 5 languages. And I'm learning Danish, and I have a good salary as well. I'm rich, right? And I'm very smart." I mean, does it sound adequate? It's completely off. What do you care, right?
Yeah, so exactly. Yeah.
If you write to somebody that is not expecting your message, telling you're working in this and that, it's just off. But it doesn't stop there, because then they say, and we work with this, and this company. And that is the equivalent of saying, oh, and my girlfriend, my last girlfriend, was a top model. And I also slept with a wide range of actresses, singers, and jet setters. What do I care?
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now I can see the analogies.
You see?
Yeah.
And then they usually close it by, and let's have a meeting. Would you have 30 minutes for me? That's a little bit like, I just happen to have a room in a hotel nearby, and I have a 30-minute slot. Would you like to come to me? No, I am sorry.
Probably not, no.
Probably not, right? So
okay, yeah, wow.
This is very clearly what we didn't want to do. And I'm saying in a joke kind of or light way of saying, but I really believe it's completely disrespectful. It really damages your brand image to begin with, your personal brand image. So that is exactly what we didn't want to do.
So those are all the things that we shouldn't be doing. And
exactly.
And one of the things that in the training that I do around social selling is, it's not about you, it's about them.
Absolutely.
So
always.
Let's turn that around then now. So, I've found you on LinkedIn, Manel, let's say, and I want to reach out to you. You've just gone through all the things we shouldn't do, and I totally agree with those. What should we be doing? What are the right
Absolutely.
ways of doing it then?
So when you write a message, so first of all, the message you write needs to be a connection message. Forget about emails. Emails are, the definition of an email is an email I don't want in, kind of.
This is in-mail, just as a terminology thing. This is in-mail that you can use in the Sales Navigator, the paid version of LinkedIn, yeah?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I agree totally with that, but we'll come back to that. But yeah, carry on. Connection request, yeah.
Thanks for pointing out that. So the issue in a connection request is you only have 300 characters to use, and you're writing to somebody that you don't know yet. And as you said, Steve, it's about them, not about you, but what do you have? What do you have? You have nothing. So the message has one and only one objective, which is that the person pushes the button or clicks into connection accepted or accept connection.
Absolutely.
Instead of ignore and then the most satisfying ever, and I don't know this person. So how do you achieve that? The way we do it is we show respect and consideration for the person. And what is respect and consideration at this stage? It's simply showing that you took the time to read their profile. For example, you start by telling them, how did you find them? And that can simply be, I found your profile while surfing in LinkedIn. Or, I saw your post about this, or I saw that you like that, or whatever. Okay. And then you tell them what it is that you saw in their personal, and I underline personal profile that appealed to you. Don't talk about company achievements.
Because it's person to person, yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, do we have connections in common? Maybe. Did we go to the same university, or did we start our career in the same company? Do we have a similar career journey? Is the career like what I would like to be in 20 years from now? Is that person career inspiring? So praise is nice to be used, but of course always with a reason.
Of course, yeah. So we're looking for reasons to, looking for things that have sparked interest, things that you've got in common, reasons to make the person think, oh, this person's, reaching out to me has made an effort. It's just not a standard connection request. The person who's sending me a connection request has bothered to find out a bit about my world.
Absolutely. People tend to be nicer than we think.
Yeah, I think it's right. Yeah.
And people tend to like their lives and their careers more than we think.
Hopefully,
yes. And then you close it by telling that you would like to stay connected. You don't even suggest you're going to reach to them as if you became best friends. That's another thing we see done often. So a nice connection message, and then next day you're bombarded with a very, very long text. I'm sorry, I accepted your connection. We didn't just become best friends because of that.
So let's just pause for a second. So what we've done is we've identified somebody through our activities on LinkedIn. We think, yeah, this is somebody I'd really like to get to know and potentially do business with down the line. Our objective first off is like getting an appointment, I suppose, really. Our objective first off is to get the connection request. So as they used to say on Star Trek, because I'm being really old here, we've opened a communication channel. That's all we've done, isn't it, really? We've just opened a channel, yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So the first reason you don't suggest you will reach to them immediately, it's because it's a risk of, people do not want that. And the second reason, it's because you will actually not reach to them immediately. As I said, just because they accepted your connection, it doesn't mean you became best friends. What you will do is do nothing. What you will do is you will continue using LinkedIn as you would normally do, you do normally. And what it is that you do, you post things, maybe, you like things, you say congratulations to a colleague that gets promoted, you do everything, you are sociable in LinkedIn.
Right, so this is something I call not forgetting the social in social media, because it is social media, and being social media means being sociable, doesn't it, really? Yeah.
Exactly. The thing is that because they accepted your connection, you will appear in their content when they open LinkedIn. And little by little, it's a sedimentation process. You will build a certain personal brand image as hopefully somebody sociable, somebody that has colleagues, somebody that says congratulations to people. Maybe in other arenas, somebody that is posting nice content. So the key here is that when after 4-6 months, I even had better experiences after 9 months of connection or more versus 4 months of connection. So it's really a sedimentation process. But after months of building this personal brand image of yourself, when you reach to them, the cold message will be a little less cold. And that's the key of the whole thing. Okay, so it's a long term. It's not that you work a lot during a week and then you obtain immediate results. By the way, if you try to connect with a lot of people in a single week, LinkedIn will disable your profile. So do not even because it will detect you as a spammer. Okay? Right, so do not even try to do that. It's a little by little, week after week process that at a point really comes naturally to the person.
So there's some really fascinating points there, Manel. So first of all, on the too many connection requests, is there a number we should try and avoid or stay below, or is it just a
LinkedIn? Common sense is 50% of the equation. Okay. The other 50% is unknown because the way LinkedIn tracks this is completely unknown. So, for example, what I can tell is if you are looking to somebody else's or other people's profiles, even if you don't ask for the connection, this will count in your, let's call it LinkedIn spamming counter kind of thing. Right. In my experience, in a B2B complex sale, the number of real people you want to talk to is so limited. This is not even an issue. But of course, you cannot think I'm going to, send hundreds of connections today.
No. And we should point out here that I know there are organizations that sell automation for LinkedIn, and they're definitely a no-no for the reasons that we've just talked about from a spanning point of view. Yeah,
absolutely.
So let's go back to what you just said also, because I found that fascinating. So we've got connected. So again, let's use imagine it's you and I. So I found you on LinkedIn. I've written you a nice personalized connection request and you've accepted it. Thank you. I think instinctively, most people listening to this podcast would want to then say, hey, Manel, thanks for taking my connection request. Can we have a meeting? You're saying not to do that. You're saying is to basically just keep putting useful content on your profile. So when you do send that message, it's a bit warmer. Is that right?
Absolutely. Okay. I can tell you sometimes after the connection takes place, I receive a message from the person I connected saying, thank you very much, Manel, for your kind words. Because praise as well, praise with a reason, works very well.
Genuine praise, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now let's write to them. So some months have passed. Hopefully the person is at least entering in LinkedIn. The person has been exposed to your content. Okay. Hopefully it's content, that relevant and appreciated, but at least it builds some awareness of who you are. You still need to bring some flowers, if I may say. Let's meet. It's not still good. We are not skipping steps. Okay. What kind of messages could we write? For example, instead of asking a meeting to just pitch something, ask for a meeting to have their point of view on something like, we are developing a solution for companies similar to yours, and I'd like to share what we are doing to have your point of view. Would you be able to help me, for example? Or my colleagues have been working in this white paper, and before we share it with the market, with everybody, I'd be very interested in knowing your advice about it, because you have this professional baggage that I appreciate.
Wow. Okay.
Or my favorite, I really like your post on X, Y, and Z, or I like the content you share in LinkedIn. And by the way, next week I will be in this international event in Barcelona. If you happen to be there, maybe we could grab a coffee and meet face to face.
Fantastic. So none of those things are me saying to you, I'm really good at what I do. I've got a great product. Can I come and sell to you? in a very simplistic way. What we're saying is, here's, I'd like your help. We'd like your help. We'd like your expertise. We'd like to, get your input on something because you're a subject matter expert. I mean, if I'm receiving that, particularly in academic, they love that kind of thing, don't they? I'm receiving that. That's going to make me think, oh yeah, I'd like to talk to this guy. Let me tell him how good I am effectively.
Yes. Yeah. So it's step by step. You obviously do not send that PDF document. You ask if they want to receive. So it's really step by step. And it's a numbers game as well. Right. You can count on these messages being accepted in roughly 50% of times. In my experience, it depends on countries. Let's say archetypically, Germans in LinkedIn tend to be less sociable. Right. Not because they are German, because they have in Germany LinkedIn is not widely used. It's a world exception. Yeah. In Italy, in my experience, the numbers tend to be more around 60, even above percent. Maybe they are more sociable.
Interesting. Yeah, they still use, is it Zing in Germany?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I didn't know it still existed. Okay. Yeah. So fantastic, Manel. So really, taking this from the first principles, finding the prospect or finding the person you wanted to reach out to, get connected with them. Don't jump straight to the appointment request. Build up useful content on your profile so they see your activity. So when you do reach out to them, they're more likely to accept it and then make the reach out not a request for a meeting, or at least a request for a selling appointment. It's a request for their expertise, their knowledge. Mm-hmm. Something I want to just come back to, and perhaps we should have clarified this right at the start. So, you did say, this is LinkedIn is a B2B networking tool, but it's a person-to-person interface effectively. All the things we're talking about, this isn't the company we work for doing this. This is me as an individual salesperson, yeah?
Absolutely. Absolutely. By the way, it happens often that people change companies. So you might connect to somebody, and then after 9 months, this person is in another position in another company. Yeah. That's perfectly okay. You might still want to meet, or maybe you meet to somebody that retires. I mean, everything I'm saying are real examples. Somebody retiring is the right occasion to ask, if not published in LinkedIn already, who is the successor of this maybe CEO, and of course reaching to that person as well. Absolutely. in a nice way. Another thing I didn't mention, but of course we know and our listeners know about a B2B complex sale environment. It is often an information-based market. So just the fact of getting together, and you see that often in international events, just conversations, healthy conversations about where the industry might be going to, are a source of value. That's another secondary aspect.
Okay, good.
I called it lead gen. Yes, of course, you generate leads from that first conversation, and then maybe it develops into a lead. There's a good informational aspect out of it from the moment you're connected, so from the very beginning.
And I think we should recognize as professional salespeople, which we are on this, listening to this podcast, that if we're reaching out to somebody on LinkedIn, we're not doing it in a sort of a spammy kind of way, as you say. We're not banging on every door on the street, to use an analogy. We're reaching out on a very targeted basis to somebody that we genuinely believe we have something that will help them or make their work easier or faster or quicker. So we should be proud of that, really, I think, and not feel embarrassed about it in some kind of way. We're doing something genuinely because we think the person we're reaching out to, we can help them, yeah?
Absolutely. And everything starts with a list of meaningful accounts. I mean, if you put it in a really lead gen angle, which is fine, I think, you start with a research of meaningful accounts. Once you have a list of meaningful accounts, you look for meaningful contacts in this account. HR people tend to be often in LinkedIn. It's part of their job. I am sorry, I will not reach to somebody in HR unless I'm job seeking, but that's another story, you know what I mean. But if you cannot just knock on the door and say, I want to talk to somebody, because that will be understood as I want to talk to anybody, and then you will talk to nobody. Kind of.
Yeah, of course, it's got to be selective, isn't it? Really. So again, let's go back to your process, which I love, by the way, in terms of the steps you've gone through. One of the things we talked about was when we've got the connection request, not going straight to the meeting request, but to continue your LinkedIn activity to post content. So let's talk a bit about that, because I think this is where a lot of people perhaps fall down with their LinkedIn activity. We use it like as a glorified address book almost. and we forget about our own activities and our own presence. So what are your thoughts in terms of what an individual salesperson listening to this podcast, what should they be doing on their own LinkedIn page?
So I don't often give this recommendation in any context, but in the context of LinkedIn, I often do, which is be yourself.
Right.
Be yourself, meaning, it's perfectly okay not to write posts if you don't want to. But come on, if you like something that you read, like it at least, okay,
yeah.
or say it's meaningful for you. Is it really that hard to say congratulations if somebody gets a new job or gets promoted? No. But this is making you more attractive, because there's a science of attractiveness. And maybe coming back to the flirting thing, there's a number of things that you can do to increase your attractiveness, and a number of things you can do to decrease it. And for the anecdote, I have 5 student assistants, 5 interns in my team.
Okay.
One of the things they go through when they join my team is always having to write a short document on what do they see being done in terms of flirting. They are in their early 20s, so they should be exposed, more than me at least, more than me. And then I consistently translate most of these into LinkedIn language.
Okay.
For example, is somebody perceived as having friends more attractive or less attractive than the lonely guy sipping whiskey in the bar? Of course, the one having friends is perceived as more attractive. What does this mean in terms of LinkedIn? Congratulations, comments on posts, this kind of thing, kind of makes you more attractive. The picture is an obvious one, right? So please have a professional picture, but that's so obvious. I don't really need to.
Well, you say that, be amazed how many times when I look at people's LinkedIn profiles, they've either haven't got a picture or they've got their wedding photo with their other half cut off, or their
which is even worse.
Yeah, it is. Or their graduation photo from 10 years ago or something. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
So let's make a point. Get a photo, guys. If you haven't got a photo, get a photo.
Yes, and this comes as well a little bit, and maybe. Coming back to one of the objectives of this podcast, which is to give clarity and kind of elevate a little bit the B2B sale.
Absolutely.
I tell you something, Steve, I never understood B2C. B2C is for me a quite obscure science. For example, I mean, when I see these pizza promotions thrown on the door of the entrance of a building, how can you be successful doing that? That pizza people know, I don't know. Yeah. So in the B2B and P2P, thinking B2B, it's B2C with a twist, that's a big and expensive mistake.
Okay. So in other words, not bombarding our LinkedIn feed with product adverts, product info, buy this, buy that. I've always thought, again, none of us know how LinkedIn works, but I've always thought if we wanted to do like a product advert on LinkedIn, LinkedIn wants us to pay for that because LinkedIn's a business, yeah.
Absolutely.
So those kind of things will just disappear on our LinkedIn page. So be yourself, which is great. Obviously, and again, one of the things I talk about in my training is that it's our LinkedIn page. It's not the company's LinkedIn page. But many companies, of course, will have guidelines about what people do and don't do on their LinkedIn page. So what are your thoughts there in terms of what they should or shouldn't be doing, really?
I would say there's an etiquette in social interactions and there's an etiquette in social networks. At the very beginning of our conversation, I said we use LinkedIn and LinkedIn only. Why it is that? You have a Manel Berga in Twitter, right? Is the Manel Berga in Twitter the same person as the Manel Berga in LinkedIn? Yes, of course. Is the tone Manel uses in Twitter the same as the tone he uses in LinkedIn? Are the topics he discusses the same? Absolutely not. No. For the same reason that you don't do the same things or you don't even dress the same way in different rooms in your house, right?
Yeah,
so there's a space for things. If I received a kind of a business proposal or even a professional request in Twitter, I would be a little bit puzzled. It's open, but I don't necessarily want this person in all the rooms.
No, I'm with you. I have a Twitter account, but to me these days it seems to be a place people go for a fight, really, rather than for any kind of business interaction. So and Facebook, Instagram, we have all those things because my wife's a wedding photographer, so we have to have all this stuff going on. And again, very different interactions in those worlds, really. But I guess that's for another day. So be yourself, be authentic, be genuine, be sociable. Yeah, don't forget the social media. And in terms of content, what are your thoughts about making your own content as opposed to sharing other people's content on your LinkedIn page?
Look, I don't think everybody has the talent to do their own content. Now, by the way, with AI, the situation didn't improve particularly. I see more and more long posts that, pretty frankly, are quite uninteresting.
Yeah,
but it's okay. It's okay not to be a writer. I mean, a lot of people live perfectly normal lives without having this talent for writing. One of the things I usually do is if I see nice content, I like it, and I can even go as far as to post it or posting it with a sentence that is not becoming a professional writer or copywriter. I try to post content that makes sense, frankly.
Right.
It's difficult for me to give kind of an iron rule, like you should do this, you should do that, because this will apply differently to different kind of people in different business environments and even different positions.
Absolutely. And I think it's okay to experiment with things, because what's the worst that can happen, really? If you try something and if nobody sees it, well, then at least really. And we've just gone past the 1st of April. It's the 3rd of April today. And my best ever LinkedIn post was one I posted last year. And it was me doing a bit of singing with a band, saying I was going to quit my job to become a rock star. I wish.
Exactly.
And I guess that's kind of me. That's my personality, because I do like a bit of fun and and a joke occasionally. So perhaps that's me showing the real me on LinkedIn. Is that how it works, do you think?
P2P, as we said. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, some things are known, like putting a picture makes the post more seen.
Yeah.
Putting your picture makes the post more successful.
Yeah.
But beyond these very basic, and I would dare to say even common sense rules, it really should be what the person feels doing.
Yeah, and trust that voice in your head. If you think, I'm not sure this is right, perhaps not post it. In terms of your sort of standards and things, obviously common sense applies there in terms of what you should and what you shouldn't post. But what you just said there was important as well. If you're reposting something, don't just repost it. Say a few words as to why anybody.
If you want,
interest. Yeah.
If you want, but there aren't really iron rules that I would say. I mean, maybe one, which is the contrary of elegance, is people noticing you're trying too much. Don't try too much.
Right.
When I see these long posts that are really not that interesting, posted day after day, most probably I'm going to mute the person. And muting the person means I will not see anything from that person.
That's a really good point.
Never ever. It's the worst that can happen to that person from a connection, because it completely cancels the effect of the connection request. So
absolutely. So just before we wrap up, and it's been a fascinating conversation, Manel, thanks so much for your time today. But I just want to come back to what we were saying a while ago about sort of Sales Navigator as opposed to the free version of LinkedIn. So first of all, nothing that we've said today requires Sales Navigator, I don't think.
There's one thing that Sales Navigator allows you, which is to see more profiles that you would normally see.
That's an important point. Okay.
It seems small. Most people do not notice, but actually it's the main benefit I find in LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I mean, of course, there are a lot of benefits in LinkedIn Sales Navigator. By the way, I don't work for LinkedIn, so I don't really, I'm not advertising it. I mean, you can do all sorts of things. To me, the main asset is being able to see the person.
Right. Because some people's profiles are a bit more, or they almost hidden, I think, on regular LinkedIn, aren't they?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
And I guess you have more sophisticated filtering and search tools in Sales Navigator than you would have in the standard version.
Yes, but again, I mean, if you have a target account, how many users this account will have in LinkedIn that are really? I mean, you can usually look for them in the normal normal LinkedIn
as well.
I didn't say how much time it should take you to write such a connection message, because it's one of the processes where I both have a minimum amount you should do an hour and a maximum amount you should do an hour. Because if you're doing too many, or if somebody in my team is doing too many, something smells like copy paste, not targeted enough. So basically we do around 6 and 10 an hour. I would accept up to 12 an hour for somebody with experience doing it. So it takes a good 5 minutes at the very least from a name of a company to find a meaningful target.
So 6 to 10 per hour. Yeah, it sounds about right, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's completely artisanal. You give me 10, I will do 10 in an hour. You give me 100, I will take 10 hours. That's exactly how it is. Yeah. It's not efficient, it's effective.
Yeah, got you. And again, we mentioned InMail a while ago. So InMail is, for those people who aren't aware, is a way of sending a kind of an email to somebody through LinkedIn. But I think also it appears in their inbox, in their email app as well, but without being connected. And my view always on that, and I'd be interested in your thoughts on this, is that to me, if I get an email, and it's obvious it's an email, the person hasn't really bothered to make an effort to get to know me. Is that how you think?
I'll try to be clear within the quorum. To me, InMail is opening the door of your room and finding somebody sleeping in your bed and saying, "Hi, here I am."
Okay. Tell me more.
What I'm trying to say, or the idea I try to convey is, to me, InMail is trying to skip a few steps. One of the things that I like most about this is that nothing that I said is necessarily new. There was a book that was published in 1999 by Seth Godin that most of our listeners will know.
Yes.
That is 25 years ago, and that book is Permission Marketing. So everything that you need to know in terms of how to approach people in, let's call it, the digital era. Again, 1999, 25 years ago, is explained in that book. And by the way, the dating, flirting metaphor is used as well in that book.
And I'll put that link to that in the show notes afterwards. Yeah. Manel, thank you ever so much for today. Is there anything that we've missed that you think the listeners should be aware of in terms of the process you've gone through, the steps you've gone through? Is there any final thought or any final point you'd like to make on that?
Maybe one, Steve, which is, everything I said is subject to change, because this is social relations, this is etiquette, and this can change and will change over time. So what I said is what is working now, but I really see that maybe in 5 or 10 years from now, we might be using another way, another tone, or another tool.
Who knows, particularly with AI and things around the corner, who knows where we're going to be going. Certainly.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me, Steve.
Manel, it's been a real pleasure getting to know you and finding a bit more about your world, and best of luck with the organisational changes you're going through at the moment. So where's the best place for anybody to reach out to you? I guess LinkedIn would be the best place.
Absolutely, but in a nice way.
Remember the right way to approach it. Yes, I'm sure that people will remember that and reach out to you in the proper way. So thanks again, Manel.
Thanks.
So if you've enjoyed today's podcast, don't forget to subscribe to the show with your favourite podcast app and tell your friends and colleagues all about us. We would also love you to leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. It really does help us in lots of mysterious ways. I'll be back again in 2 weeks' time with my colleagues Jonathan and Prue for our second part of our series on effective negotiations. Until then, happy selling, and we'll talk to you soon.